Have you ever wondered why certain patterns repeat in your relationships? Why you find yourself drawn to the same kind of person, or repelled by qualities that seem to mirror your own hidden struggles? It's a question that echoes through the chambers of the heart, a silent whisper that often goes unanswered, leaving a trail of confusion and heartache. This intricate dance of attraction and repulsion, of harmony and discord, is often orchestrated by an unseen force, a hidden aspect of your psyche that Carl Jung so profoundly termed the shadow self. This is not some sinister entity, but rather a repository of all that you deem unacceptable about yourself. Desires, impulses, emotions, and traits that have been repressed, denied, or simply pushed into the forgotten corners of your consciousness. Yet, these unacknowledged fragments of self do not vanish. Instead, they exert a powerful, often unconscious, influence on your life, particularly in the most intimate of connections. The relationships you forge become a mirror, reflecting these concealed aspects back to you, sometimes in the most unsettling ways. Understanding this profound interplay is the first step toward true relational mastery and deep personal healing. Imagine a woman named Eleanor, a vibrant artist with a spirit as free as the swirling colors on her canvas. Yet, in her personal life, she found herself perpetually entangled with partners who, despite their initial charm, inevitably proved to be emotionally distant, critical, and dismissive of her passions. Each relationship began with a flourish of hope, a belief that this time would be different, only to descend into a familiar pattern of Eleanor feeling unseen, unheard, and ultimately unloved. Her friends, observing this recurring theme, would often gently suggest she had a type, but Eleanor herself was baffled. She yearned for deep connection, for a partner who would champion her artistic endeavors and provide unwavering emotional support. Why, then, did she consistently gravitate towards men who seemed incapable of offering precisely what she craved? The answer, unbeknownst to Eleanor, lay buried deep within her own shadow. Growing up in a household where her creative pursuits were subtly dismissed as frivolous and emotional expression was discouraged, Eleanor had unconsciously internalized a belief that her true self, her passionate, sensitive artistic core, was somehow too much or not worthy of unconditional love. She had, in essence, cast her own vibrant emotional landscape and artistic ambition into her shadow. This suppressed part of her, yearning for validation, inadvertently sought out partners who would reinforce this unconscious belief, providing a familiar, albeit painful, echo of her early experiences. It was a tragic loop, a self-fulfilling prophecy born from an unexamined inner world. One particularly painful instance involved a man named Arthur, a successful architect whose meticulous nature initially appealed to Eleanor's own desire for order amidst her creative chaos. He was articulate, seemingly thoughtful, and projected an air of stability. However, as their relationship deepened, Arthur's subtle critiques of her art became more pronounced, his constructive feedback eroding her confidence. He'd often say, "That's interesting, Eleanor, but perhaps you should focus on something more marketable." Or, when she expressed a vulnerability, he would respond with a logical, detached analysis rather than empathy, leaving her feeling exposed and foolish. Eleanor would retreat, her artistic spirit wilting under his gaze, and yet, she couldn't bring herself to leave. The discomfort was immense, a dull ache that permeated her days, but the familiarity of it, the unconscious validation of her own shadowed belief that she was fundamentally flawed, kept her tethered. The breaking point arrived during an art exhibition. Eleanor had poured her soul into a series of paintings, vibrant and deeply personal. Arthur, standing beside her, looked at a particularly emotive piece and remarked, with a dismissive wave of his hand, "It's a bit messy, isn't it? Not really what people look for in art these days." The words, though seemingly innocuous, struck Eleanor like a physical blow. It wasn't just his opinion. It was the echo of her own internal critic, the voice she had suppressed for so long, now projected onto the man she had chosen. In that moment, a flicker of understanding ignited within her. She wasn't just hurt by Arthur. She was hurt by the part of herself that had allowed his words to resonate so deeply, the part that still believed she wasn't good enough. This subtle yet profound realization was the first crack in the facade of her unconscious patterns. It made her ask, for the first time, not what was wrong with her partners, but what was truly wrong within herself. Eleanor's journey reflects the archetype of the wounded artist, a figure whose creative spirit is intertwined with a deep emotional sensitivity, often leading to vulnerability in relationships. Her unconscious patterns, shaped by early experiences, led her to project her own shadowed insecurities onto her partners, who then, in turn, mirrored those very insecurities back to her. This dynamic, often observed in relationships, highlights the pervasive influence of the shadow self. The discomfort Eleanor felt was not merely a reaction to Arthur's behavior, but a profound invitation to confront the unacknowledged aspects within her own psyche. For any individual caught in such a loop, the path to liberation begins with a courageous confrontation of these hidden facets. You are not destined to repeat these patterns indefinitely. Begin by examining the qualities in others that consistently irritate or attract you. These are often signposts pointing towards your own unintegrated shadow. Ask yourself, what within me might be mirrored in this person? What aspect of myself am I denying or repressing that this relationship is bringing to the surface? This introspection, while often uncomfortable, is the crucible in which genuine self-awareness is forged. Embrace the discomfort, for it is through this discomfort that profound growth occurs, allowing you to reclaim the fragmented parts of yourself and move toward more authentic, fulfilling connections. The profound journey into the self, initiated by the unsettling reflections in our relationships, often leads us to another critical concept: projection. Carl Jung illuminated this phenomenon, suggesting that what we find most admirable or most detestable in others is frequently a mirror of unacknowledged aspects within ourselves. It's a psychological sleight of hand, an unconscious act where we externalize our inner world, attributing our own unintegrated qualities, whether positive or negative, to those around us. This mechanism is particularly potent when it comes to the shadow self, as the very qualities we've suppressed or denied within us tend to manifest most clearly, albeit often distortingly, in the people we encounter. It's as if the universe is constantly presenting us with a cast of characters, each holding up a different facet of our hidden psyche, inviting us to see what lies beneath the surface of our conscious awareness. Without this crucial understanding, relationships become fertile ground for misunderstanding, blame, and a perpetuation of unexamined patterns. Consider the timeless wisdom embedded in the words of Carl Rogers, a pioneer in humanistic psychology, who emphasized the concept of unconditional positive regard and its inverse, the conditions of worth we internalize from others. While Rogers focused on the therapeutic relationship, his insights offer a powerful lens through which to view the origins of our relational projections. When an individual, perhaps in their formative years, experiences conditional love or acceptance, meaning they are valued only when they meet certain expectations or suppress certain natural tendencies, they begin to construct a false self to gain approval. The genuine impulses, emotions, or desires that do not conform to these external conditions are then relegated to the shadow. For instance, if a child is consistently praised for being nice and agreeable, and any display of anger or assertiveness is met with disapproval, that child learns to repress their natural capacity for healthy boundaries and righteous anger. This repressed anger doesn't vanish. It simply goes underground. Later in life, this individual might find themselves disproportionately enraged by perceived injustices or aggression in others, projecting their own unacknowledged fury onto the external world. They might label a confident, assertive colleague as abrasive or domineering, when in truth, they are reacting to the suppressed assertiveness within themselves. Conversely, they might idealize someone who embodies the very qualities they've repressed, perhaps a free-spirited artist if they've always felt stifled, or a financially independent individual if they harbor unfulfilled ambitions. This idealized projection can be just as problematic, as it sets up unrealistic expectations for the other person, placing them on a pedestal that inevitably crumbles under the weight of human imperfection. The disillusionment that follows such an idealization is not a flaw in the other person, but a symptom of the projector's own unexamined inner world. The true tragedy of projection is that it creates a barrier to genuine connection. When we project, we are not truly seeing the other person for who they are, we are seeing a reflection of ourselves. This prevents authentic intimacy, as the relationship becomes a stage for our own internal dramas rather than a space for mutual growth and understanding. It traps us in a cycle of reactivity, where our emotional responses are dictated not by the present reality, but by the unresolved echoes of our past and the unintegrated fragments of our psyche. The question then becomes, how do we reclaim these projected fragments and integrate them back into the whole self? This requires a conscious effort, a willingness to look beyond the surface of our emotional reactions and ask, what is this truly telling me about myself? It demands an unflinching honesty, an acceptance that the qualities we admire or despise in others might, in some form, reside within our own being. The courage to undertake this self-inquiry is the beginning of genuine liberation, transforming relationships from battlegrounds of unconscious projection into profound avenues for self-discovery and holistic integration. The archetype at play here is often the unrecognized seeker, perpetually searching for validation or wholeness in external relationships because the internal landscape remains uncharted. The continuous cycle of projection, fueled by early internalized conditions of worth, prevents authentic connection and perpetuates a sense of internal fragmentation. When you find yourself in a constant loop of criticizing others for traits you possess, or endlessly idealizing qualities that you deny within yourself, you are witnessing the powerful force of projection at work. The solution lies in a profound act of self-responsibility, consciously withdrawing these projections. Instead of labeling another person, pause and ask, where do I see this quality, this strength, or this weakness within myself? This isn't about blaming yourself, but about reclaiming your own power. By owning these previously disowned parts, you begin the process of individuation, becoming more whole, less reactive, and more capable of forming truly authentic bonds. Embrace the idea that every intense emotional reaction, whether positive or negative, is a sacred invitation to look inward. This journey requires compassion for yourself, acknowledging that these defense mechanisms were once necessary for survival. Now, however, they stand as barriers to your growth and the depth of connection you truly desire. The culmination of recognizing the shadow self and understanding its projections is the profound journey of integration, a process Carl Jung referred to as individuation. This isn't about eradicating your shadow, for it is an inseparable part of your totality, a wellspring of raw energy and potential. Instead, it's about bringing what has been unconscious into conscious awareness, embracing all aspects of your being, even those deemed undesirable, and weaving them into the tapestry of your authentic self. This act of courageous self-acceptance is the key to transforming your relationships from arenas of unconscious drama into spaces of genuine connection and mutual growth. It is the ultimate liberation, where the need for external validation diminishes, replaced by a deep well of self-worth that originates from within. Consider the ancient Stoic philosophy, epitomized by figures like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, whose teachings, though distinct from Jungian psychology, offer a powerful practical framework for this internal integration. Stoicism emphasizes focusing on what is within your control, your perceptions, judgments, and actions, and letting go of what is external. While Stoicism often highlights emotional control, in the context of the shadow, it's about acknowledging the emotions and impulses within the shadow, not suppressing them, but choosing your response to them. The Stoic ideal of virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, can be seen as an external manifestation of a truly integrated self. If, for instance, your shadow holds unacknowledged anger, a Stoic perspective wouldn't tell you to deny the anger, but to understand its source, to control your reaction to it, and to channel its energy towards constructive ends, rather than allowing it to explode as projected rage onto others. The pursuit of wisdom, for a Stoic, involves rigorous self-examination, a practice that aligns perfectly with the deep introspection required for shadow work. It is the courageous act of turning inward, confronting discomfort, and choosing to respond with intention rather than mere reaction. Let us return to Eleanor, the artist from our first story, who began to grasp the threads of her own projections. After her painful encounter with Arthur at the art exhibition, a quiet revolution began within her. The sharp sting of his words, which echoed her own internalized belief about her art being messy and unmarketable, forced her to confront the subtle yet pervasive self-criticism she had harbored since childhood. She realized that her attraction to critical partners was not accidental. They were unconsciously chosen to confirm a deeply held, shadowed belief about her own inadequacy. This awakening was not sudden. It was a slow, arduous process of introspection, often painful. She began to journal, not about her relationships, but about her feelings, her past, and the instances where she had felt truly stifled or dismissed. She recalled her mother's well-intentioned but often undermining comments about art not being a real career, and how she had quietly absorbed that message, pushing her true artistic passion into the shadows. The more she consciously acknowledged these repressed aspects, her deep desire for validation, her buried resentment at past dismissals, and her own internalized critical voice, the less power they held over her. One pivotal moment came when she met David, a fellow artist whose genuine enthusiasm for her work initially made her deeply uncomfortable. His praise felt almost alien, triggering a subtle resistance within her. Her initial instinct was to find fault with him, to intellectualize his compliments, or to test his sincerity. This was her old pattern, the shadow trying to maintain its familiar grip, seeking to project her own self-doubt onto him. But this time she paused. Remembering the lessons of integration, she recognized the discomfort not as a flaw in David, but as a reflection of her own unintegrated self-worth. She noticed the part of her that still struggled to believe she was truly worthy of such unadulterated positive regard. Instead of retreating or finding fault, she chose a different path. She allowed herself to feel the unfamiliar warmth of his admiration, even if it felt unsettling. She started to practice something akin to a Stoic acceptance. This is what is, right now. I can choose to receive it. With each brushstroke, she actively challenged her inner critic, painting not for external approval, but for the sheer joy of creation. She started to exhibit her work again, not with trepidation, but with a quiet confidence that stemmed from an internal shift. She understood that her art, her passion, and her emotional self were not liabilities but sources of immense strength. The internal transformation Eleanor underwent was palpable. She became less reactive, more discerning in her relationships, and genuinely attracted to individuals who honored her authentic self, because she had finally learned to honor it within herself. Her journey wasn't about finding a perfect partner, but about becoming a whole individual, no longer needing another to complete her, but choosing to share her wholeness with another. This is the profound outcome of engaging with the shadow, a liberation from the chains of projection and a rebirth into authentic selfhood. The integrated individual stands as a testament to the power of self-acceptance, no longer battling internal fragments but instead embracing their entirety. This journey is the essence of psychological and emotional maturity. When you consciously undertake the challenging but ultimately liberating work of shadow integration, you cease to project your unacknowledged desires, fears, and criticisms onto others. You become capable of forming relationships based on genuine connection, seeing the other person for who they truly are, rather than as a canvas for your own internal dramas. This inner transformation fuels a profound outer shift. You attract relationships that mirror your newfound wholeness, relationships characterized by respect, authenticity, and mutual growth. Let go of the need for external validation, for it is a fleeting phantom. The true wellspring of self-worth resides within, awaiting your courageous acknowledgement. Embrace the discomfort of confronting your hidden parts, for it is in those challenging moments that true healing unfolds, leading to an inner rebirth. The power is yours to reclaim, transforming fear into courage, self-doubt into conviction, and fragmented existence into a tapestry of integrated selfhood. What aspect of your shadow are you ready to embrace today, to begin the dance of true integration and foster relationships that reflect your authentic, powerful self? Please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Share this video with other friends to spread valuable insights in life. Thank many for listening. The end.